Right.
All right, so let's jump into game number 1. Let's see what these two guys have chosen. And it's a druid versus the mage. Savjz is going to start it off. Oh, man, you got a haircut. Oh, stop it, Savjz. Stop it right now.
Looking a little too handsome for you, is he?
Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I need to look at the cards. Okay. So he's going to mulligan out the...
Yeah. Innervate the hand to RDU. That's a card.
As if I wasn't feeding the Twitch chat already with accusations about my sexuality. I think Savjz is, he's sticking to the game plan. Freeze Mage wants to cycle out things that don't get them to draw. You want to kind of push into the things that makes the deck so consistent, and you want the response. Unfortunately, he gets like the ice block again, even though he didn't want it originally. But, who knows? Maybe that might be his saving grace if he doesn't draw until the bottom parts of the deck.
Did RDU mulligan into Swipe and Keeper, or did he keep those cards?
Did RDU... Oh, I was paying attention to Savjz's mulligan, because he was the one mulliganing a lot of them. Which I think that means, yeah, RDU didn't mulligan most of his cards, so it looks like he kept what he got.
Huh. I think it's really weird that he chose to keep Swipe. I wonder why he did that. If he chose to keep Swipe. I don't know if he chose to keep Swipe or not.
I don't know, but at least the Keeper is absolutely a great pick. It's going to be landing on the Doomsayers. It also gives you versatility if things get frozen and you need to kind of push for the final points of damage to pop Ice Block.
Or in case your opponent happens to be playing something like Aggro Mage and you need to hit a...
True. The Knife Juggler or Sorcerer's Apprentice, right? Yep. Just smack it down.
I like Arcane here. Oh, he's playing Giants.
Giants. What do you think about this, Admirable?
This is actually one of the versions that I've had trouble with as a Druid player, is you can sometimes pop your opponent's Ice Block, but then they follow up with something like Molten Giants, and then you're like, I didn't expect that. And then suddenly you're facing down 16 points of damage. Wow, this is a really great hand.
The way I was always, the way I kind of like heard Freeze Mage in the recent meta was that as cool as it is, it's just not as consistent as, well, the normal Freeze Mage, where you kind of use Burn and Alexstrasza / Antonius or Pyro for your win conditions, because the Giants often don't come in the sequence you want it, right? Sometimes you want Mountain Giants earlier, but you get it later. Versus the Freeze Mage is pretty consistent. You're just drawing to form, installing until you get your Alex, and then you burn him down. Or conveniently earlier if you're able to sneak in damage. Yeah. So I'm curious to see how it works out for him here, because I know Savjz loves consistency above everything else, so maybe he's found a way to make it work.
Something it could also be is a testament to his respect for the other players in this tournament. Sometimes in order to pick off these wins, you're going to have to be taking bigger risks. So something like a little bit of inconsistency in his deck could be proving valuable if he finds himself in spots where his opponents aren't making errors, and he needs to do things like get off a Mountain Giant or get off 2 Molten Giants when your opponent's not expecting it, that sort of thing. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see both these Doomsayers here, but he wants to develop the Ice Block as well.
But then, I see your point. That's true. Actually, I guess that's a fair assessment of stuff.
Okay,
it's just surprising.
So RDU's gotten the news that this is now Ice Block. He's put his opponent down to 15. I imagine you're going to see a Molten Giant this turn. This looks like...
Was he on 6 mana?
He's on 6 mana. Going into... Oh, he's just going to...
Well, he's going to Flame Strike.
That's fine as well. I actually didn't... I forgot he had the coin in his hand. So ignore what I said. He's going to Flame Strike. He's not going to Molten Giant. But now, if he falls to like 1 life here, which I imagine RDU's just going to push for damage, his opponent has found himself in a position where he can play 2 Molten Giants. But look at his hand. These swipes are going to pull a lot of weight.
He can pop right now. Savage Roar plus Power of the Wild.
Oh my gosh, you're right. 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. Is he going to go for swipe instead, though?
I think, well, he has 2 swipes, so he has the flexibility to
he's counting it.
Keep 1.
4, 5, 6, 7,
just
8,
like
9,
that.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm a little curious he chooses to use the swipe here instead.
Well, I mean, either way, he puts him down at 1, so Hero Power is just as good.
Wow. And just like that...
And Savjz is now already being threatened with lethal. He needs a way to kind of respond, but the problem is opponent has a swipe to the face the following way. So even if he sets up a taunt for some reason, he needs to pick up like an Ice Block.
Yeah, I was going to say, he needs to draw Ice Block right now. It's only out. Wow, that's just over. It's just game.
Yeah, that's it. He has no way. He has to really hope his opponent doesn't have Keeper or Swipe or anything like that.
Wow,
but there's no way for him to get through.
Yeah, he's going to use the Mana Worm here. He's going to use Mirror Image, and he's going to kill one of these minions, or maybe even 2 of them. When I say
That is
kill,
pretty
when I
clutch.
say kill, what I mean is he's actually going to freeze one or something like that.
And I think
Wow, that's a quick
that,
game.
that's exactly kind of like what we was talking about. Like I think Savjz realizes that at this stage he's really optimistic to survive this past turn.
I mean, your opponent just used a swipe though, so he's got to have.
What's the likelihood? Well, he might have a second
damage?
keeper.
Yeah.
Right? He already used a keeper. He already used a swipe.
Yep.
It is really dicey though, because then what if he has a simple way to like get through?
Yeah. I mean, this is it's a rough spot to be in.
Force of nature.
This way, he also dies to Wrath.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. RDU's hand has just got it, and wow, what a quick game one. And that's got
very thing unless you're playing Broodmasters. So I think Savjz, if he has that kind of mentality from months ago, now everything could change. I would kind of be favoring his Druid Mirror here.
Yeah, I think a lot of the positions I think where Handlock is not favored versus Druid is when Druid is running like Argent Commanders and Big Game Hunter, and they're able to actually they're able to play the control side when you're trying to play the control side. So your game plan gets lost. But against Token Druid, you're just trying to fend off damage. So I wouldn't mind seeing Handlock go here.
Okay. I mean, I can see that perspective as well. It really depends. Savjz might be surprising everybody and bring out a Zoo as well. Zoo has been, it's still good. People just forget about it. And now that Nax Rams is out, people are like, oh, it's definitely good.
Yep. Handlock it is.
Oh, but RDU gets a BGH right in his opening hand. Now he has to kind of make a gamble. He has to make a gamble about what it is.
I think in this spot you assume that it's Handlock. Honestly, if for no other reason, just given Savjz's history, he really likes playing this deck in tournaments. It's such a strong deck to have in your lineup because it's hard for your opponent to specifically prepare enough decks for something like Handlock. And wow, this hand is a really good opener from RD. That Big Game Hunter just changes everything. I mean, this is a game that like it's kind of tough for him to get through enough damage, and then suddenly the game completely turns around just because he's got Big Game Hunter.
Double spiders. But he's gonna pass because again he wants to kind of see. He already saw the vanilla test of waiting to see if the Warlock would play something or pass, and so he was just kind of testing the waters. But at this stage,
keep
go
going. Ahead. Coin is actually
No.
It's important in matchups like this because you need to be able to push through like a mid game. It's like the one extra mana makes all the difference in the world. Whereas if he coins out the spider, he's effectively trading the coin for 1 point of damage.
Right.
So it's not a very valuable play to make to him because something like when your opponent plays Twilight Drake, ideally you want to be able to silence it and then use your hero power afterwards to pick it off so you don't sacrifice any minion value.
Yeah, and I was about to say like there's no rush to like, oh man, I need to get these spiders out now. Like,
right.
There's no real incentive to it. Plus, he didn't have a clear turn 3 play, so it just made sense to follow through.
That's a new addition to Handlock.
Yeah, it synergizes really well with the things that make the Zoo really effective, right? The buffs with Power Overwhelming, and then Shadow Flame with it as well, or even Hellfire. Hellfire can even proc it. Say, for example, this lives and doesn't get silenced by the Keeper next turn. Then you have a Hellfire, you clear the board on paper, against aggro especially, and then you have a way to kind of deal with things with a 4/4.
Silence on the spider is actually sort of interesting. It's making this egg look a lot more innocent. This way, like if he taunts it up, it's such an easy silence target. So he's actually trying to divert attention away from that, I think, when he chooses to use the silence here. But RDU heads up play. I think you're supposed to go ahead and silence it anyway. I don't know if he should be using the active spider to clear the owl, though. I think
because then it makes it a lot. Yeah, now the Mortal Coil with the Hellfires you have clear as well.
This is a pretty valuable swing turn. He needs to find some actual threats, though. Notice he doesn't have a 6-drop. He doesn't have a Twilight Drake, and he doesn't have a Mountain Giant right now. So he's failing to put together a lot of pressure this turn. And this is one of those spots now where RDU has to make a decision. And the taunting here, this is another heads-up play from him. He wants to play around Soulfire as well. So getting the extra 2 health prevents your opponent from Soulfiring. They've already used a Hellfire now, so it's a lot harder for him to clear this out. And even though you get in the extra charge damage, what ends up happening here is that you effectively get in that much more damage anyway because your opponent just would have Soulfired it. So you get a Soulfire from your opponent, but the downside of it is that you have to sacrifice the 2 extra health. So this can potentially get in 8 points of damage or 12 points of damage, etc. Whereas the charge almost always only gets in 4 and then gets Soulfired.
Well, the Ancient of Lore is coming out, so it's back-to-back very powerful turns with plenty more to follow now that he has Violet Teachers and Power of the Wild. And he's got Wraths with the Azure Drakes to kind of back up with spell power. So a lot of tools at the disposal of RDU. Savjz picks up a Nerubian Egg. And he does have the Shadow Flame and Power Overwhelming. So there are ways to kind of combo everything, but it's still going to fall short of clearing out this Ancient of Lore.
Really tough turn. Because he wants to get the egg out of the way, which he can do with Shadow Flame, but if the egg with Power Overwhelming and Shadow Flame actually doesn't clear the board, it leaves it with a 5/1. So
right, and then
if he wants to Soulfire, he has to Soulfire for 1 point of damage. So I imagine he's just going to be taking damage instead.
And then hoping his opponent just can't kill him the following turn with like a Savage Roar. Then he might feel like he has to taunt it up too.
Yeah, this is one of the spots where... So he's going to use Soulfire here when he plays the egg. That much is given.
Oh man, he loses the Faceless.
He needed that Faceless too, because he needs to play the Molten Giant and Faceless it, and then taunt them both up.
Yeah. That's going to be tough because then there's multiple targets for BGH is impossible. So, Force of Nature has been picked up as well by RDU. So he's got lots of burst in his hand. Savjz looking along the ropes.
Still another sticky minion. But hey, he's about to get a 4/4 out of this deal. Maybe he can put something together. And look at RDU. He's counting to see if he needs to attack, and he doesn't. So now Savjz can't even play a Molten Giant without paying all of his mana. Ooh, and a Mountain Giant.
Well, let's see. He could... No, he can't. Doesn't have enough mana. I was thinking he can also buff it with Defender of Argus, so he has the 5 damage on the Nerubian Egg. But the problem is he's 1 mana short then because he can't Shadow Flame and do it. That's tough.
I like playing the Mountain Giant here in taunting. I really do.
I think so too, because I think you activate the egg, which is nice, and you can have that for sure as insurance to kind of back it up for Shadow Flame play next turn.
Yeah, you got to put something together on the board, and you can't be taking too many risks because if you take a big risk here. What ends up happening is your opponent just gets to just push for damage. And I don't like this play because this is going to strand the Mountain Giant in his hand now. Like now he has to play Mountain Giant for 8, so he's very much relying on this board clear to really pull through the game. But RDU has invested a lot of minions onto the board, so if he can't put together a strong turn here, Savjz is in really good shape. But this is the nature of Druid, is that it pretty much always puts together a strong following turn. And he's just going to make a 3/2 even. So 7 more points of power on the board, and now you don't have a board sweep anymore.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, Savjz obviously didn't want to die to any kind of shenanigans the following turn too, so it was a very safe approach. He picks up a Hellfire. How does that help him here? Let's see. He has the ability to play Mountain Giant and taunt again, but the Hellfire allows him to get a cheaper Molten Giant.
See, now the Mountain Giant I feel like is a lot worse here because then you can't follow up with Shadow Flame because the idea is that you want your opponent to have to overcommit to the Mountain Giant, and then you Shadow Flame him out of the game. But now he can't do that. He's already used his board sweep. So a little bit of panic, I think, might be coming out of Savjz here. And he's going to have
Mountain Giant
or 1 point damage. But
big discard.
Yeah, he wants the Mountain Giant actually out of his hand, I think.
Yeah, because he wants the Taunters to kind of prevent his opponent from being able to do anything. And he's at 15 health too, the sweet spot, so to speak.
Wow.
Okay, so
RDU had 1 more mana. This would be so easy. Wow. He's choosing to Force Nature instead of using his Wrath. That is really peculiar. Oh, he's got a second Force Nature.
He's got a 4-second Force Nature, so he's got the damage in. Still looking for a way to end the game. And also the Wraths still are a little bit more versatile. Savjz has to tap, and he picks up an Ancient Watcher, which allows him to set up a line of defense.
He's going to have to play this Defender of Argus, too.
But then how do you win from here, though, if you're Savjz?
I don't know. This is out of cards.
He can play Keep Away, but how long can he hold?
I don't think it's...
Drake comes out. Oh, a swipe pickup. Does that help him clear?
I don't know if you swipe. No. Just Wrath. I think you Wrath the 5/6 for 2 points of damage. And then you put the big Game Hunter into it.
Yeah, well. You see, he's kind of having a little bit of footsies here.
And look at how many cards he's got. And Savjz is just out of cards. Like he's just been checkmated at this point. He's been grinded out of the game by a Druid deck.
Yeah.
This is something that happens when you don't...
That's supposed to... I mean, the Warlock's hero power is to draw cards.
Right, but
yet the Druid's been able to outpace him the entire time.
It's sort of an unlucky position, I think, for Savjz to be in because he didn't find a Mountain Giant or a Twilight Drake early in the game. And then I think he may have panicked a little bit too early. Like he really needed to hold the Power Overwhelming Shadow Flame, I think, because you need a big swing turn. So even if your opponent has a big Game Hunter and they overcommit to the board with it, you find yourself in a spot where It's like you have an ability to get a swing turn versus not having the ability to get a swing turn, and this is actually just lethal. So this is going to be game 2 going over to RDU now. He's up 2-0 with this Token Druid deck. And Savjz has 1 deck left to fall back on.
Yeah, his Druid deck. And we're going to see if what the Druid deck to his last deck. And RDU, the guy who's been playing super well, he's ranked number 2 in Go-To Gamers. He's going to potentially 3-0 the OGN champion. Let's see what these guys' opening hands are. Also, Savjz is playing Token. You see the Power of the Wild in his hand, but he's going to push hard for something else. Maybe the Wild Growth, maybe the Innervates if he's holding them.
That hand is really clunky, by the way.
Yeah.
The coin is certainly going to help him out a lot, but otherwise that hand's pretty clunky. But RDU's hand is not too spectacular either. He's got a Spider and then no other minions. And it picked up a Spider for Savjz. That's a good draw.
Well, there's going to be a lot of spiders crawling on this board. That's for sure. Actually, with the keepers, maybe not.
Ooh,
an Innervate. Finally, a development.
I think you say that Innervate. I don't know.
But then the curve is so nice.
Yeah. No, you know what?
4-4.
It's way better to play Violet Teacher here because you have Innervate Violet Teacher into Coin Violet Teacher. So you start getting value from him right away, and you get 3 5s on the board. I lied. You don't save Innervate. Ignore what I said.
It fits the curve so nicely. It synergizes well. I can understand why, though, if he picks up something like Power of the Wild with the spiders on board already, it kind of improves the board position tenfold, right? Because then things are slightly out of range even more. But I think it's almost too. I think it's just almost too good to pass up. You get so much tempo just by pushing this out and forcing Druid to respond. How's he gonna even do it on turn 3? He can't even do anything. He has to Wrath. No, he can't. He can't answer this Violet Teacher with 5 health.
That's exactly what he was thinking about. He planned out all of his turns. He was looking at the different variations if he played Spider. And this, I think this is by far the best variation when you really think about how his turns are going to follow up.
Oh, wow, Savjz,
forced to use Savage Roar to deal with this too. I can't blame him.
That's nice.
His hand is really poor at the moment, and you can't leave a Violet Teacher on the board. That's just
no.
lose.
Absolutely not. I mean, it's just a Yeti with long-term bonuses.
Wow, and he picks up Power of the Wild the next draw. That kind of sucks, I think, if you're sitting in Savjz's spot. You're like, man, of course I would have drawn the Power of the Wild.
Like, right after the Innervate. Of course. All right, well, RDU, he has a way to kind of silence this and deal with the spiders immediately. Or, basically the same thing. Trading, silencing, same kind of consequence. If he wanted to go for it, but... now we see that the initiative is back onto Savjz. He does have the Power of the Wild, so maybe he saves it. Oh, an Innervate as well.
Oh,
wow.
You use coin here as well, right?
I think so, to get that extra. You're trading a coin for a 2/2. Oh, yeah. He needs spell power swipe in order to do something.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. It's Kool-Aid Man.
Nice. There's no person busting through these walls, though.
3 2/2s and a 4/6 on turn 4. This swipe is good, but is it good enough? Goodness gracious, you're going to be taking 6 points of damage if you choose to swipe this turn. But I don't think he's got an option. He's got to swipe.
Yeah, it's a painful sacrifice because he lost to that. But I see Savjz also dedicated a lot of his cards too, so he's going to be playing off the top. Things like the Argent Squire. I mean, they're sturdy for what its mana cost is, but he needs to pick up something like Agent of Lore soon.
So Force of Nature, I think, is likely going to be the card used to try to clear this board, unless he draws another swipe. Ooh, that's a really bad draw right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's not going to really even affect this mirror that much. What really has the battle cries?
Nothing
in
really.
the Druid deck.
Yeah, it's just
maybe Black Knight, if it does exist. Maybe the Black Knight. I don't know. Oh, Power of the Wild, another one.
I think you just 2 to the face and Power of the Wild +1/+1
with the Keeper of the Grove.
Yeah, I think you just go all in for it. Like, I mean, you don't have options left at this point, and when you don't have options left, you have to just start making your push for damage because you need the game to end as quickly as possible.
Okay, well, Savjz is pushing all in, and on his last life as well, he's kind of smirking, realizing that this is... Well, he's at the mercy of what RDU has plus what he draws. And RDU has this Ancient of Lore, but he has to use it to restore health instead, because he realizes that he's in a pretty tough position, too, in terms of losing so much HP.
Is there anything Savjz can draw here to, like, close the game? Well, it's certainly not Haunted Creeper. But these minions are, they're not very efficient to attack. He's just gonna have to be investing a lot of his minions' health into like clearing a 3/5 and like a 2/2 shield and a 1/2 and then a 3/2.
Yeah.
And look how much damage he's taking. He's down to 10.
He needs something. He needs like if this Azure Drake hit a swipe with an Innervate or something.
Oh my gosh. He drew a keeper. He's gonna be able to fend off this damage too. And another Ancient of Lord. Oh
wow.
My gosh, this is really bad news for Savjz. This is a big swing turn.
I think Savjz needs Savage Roar right now.
He needs Savage Roar right now.
He needs Savage Roar for the win.
Or Force of Nature.
Exacties.
Oh no!
Oh, a Black Knight.
All right, now here's the question: do you slam this Black Knight?
I think so.
You've got to get the damage in.
I think so. It's
your opponent's playing token as well. Like, how many taunts are they gonna have?
Druid of the Claw. That's about it.
Yeah.
Right. There's no other.
Maybe Mark of the Wild.
Yeah, and that'd be one of those hybrid decks that we see a lot of times, which is like half ramp, half token.
No.
A little bit of indecision.
Well, it protects his Black Knight, but I think you got to go for the damage.
Because then, if assuming he can't heal, then Force of Nature becomes an out to win the game, right?
Innervate. Not if
okay.
I mean, this is going to heal for 5 again.
Actually, and then Innervate out the Keeper.
Innervate's actually a really relevant draw.
Yeah, that's super clutch.
Wow. I'm just a liar today. God, what's wrong with me?
Well, he's going to use Savage Roar instead to clear off the 4/5 and take even the more safe approach.
Yep. So 5/5 versus a 1/2. 11 life versus 31, though, so he's got a little bit of time.
He needs an Ancient of Lord now, so Savjz has been playing on the top of his deck for 3 full turns. Harvest Golem. It's not what he needed. He's got still kind of putting his opponent in pressure, though. He's had to use his Ancient of Lords to heal this entire time.
Do you silence this Harvest Golem? Well, I think you do.
Let's see what he draws. A Violet Teacher. I think you do silence it because, again, you don't want any ability for your opponent to kind of climb back in.
Yeah, let's try to
leaving those 2/1s.
And look how much damage he's putting together himself. If he drops Savage Roar,
swipe. Let's see.
My gosh, he's so close. Do you need to swipe this turn to get an extra damage? You can put your opponent at 7, and your opponent can heal to 8. No charge is still lethal, and then Force of Nature is still lethal. So you don't need to swipe right now. But I don't think you can afford to.
Nothing you can really top deck.
I don't think you can afford to swipe a minion though. Like you have to hope to draw 4 damage.
I think you're right. The only thing is, if he top decks something like Ancient of Lore, he would have wished that he swiped it a little bit earlier. Unless he top decks like an Innervate with that off the 2 draws.
Yeah.
Ooh, a tough decision that he has to make. This is really difficult for Savjz.
Yeah, this is one of those spots where I think you just you have to accept the fact that you've been put in such a poor position that you just have to.
I think he's calculating, can he die the following turn? But his opponent used Savage Roar twice already, so. Oh, he's going to go for the swipe to try to remove the damage.
Force of Nature is still lethal here, but now the consequence of doing it this way, you slowed your opponent down a little bit, but now you don't have Druid of the Claws and out. Speaking of oh my gosh. And I think
I guess it wouldn't have mattered.
I don't think there's any way that Savjz can win this game.
Oh man. He needs enough. He's using Ancient of Lore or something now. Like we've been saying it for 4 or 5 turns, but now is like the good time for him to have it.
Black Knight's already gone too.
Oh, you're right. And that would have been a big swing too.
Oh! Well, now you can draw Force of Nature though.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm sorry, you can draw Savage Roar. I said Force of Nature. I meant Savage.
Right, the other combo. I know exactly what you mean, buddy. I got your back. He's still in it, but barely. His opponent's going to be able to do a lot of damage here. I didn't even realize Savjz is at 34 health because of how much pressure he's been putting on his opponent. But that kind of just whittles away at this strength of a board. What's it going to be for Savjz? He needs something right now to determine whether or not he can come back in this game and maybe even the series. Is it going to be Savage Roar? 15 cards?
No.
Oh.
Wait a minute.
He can stall again, right?
He's just short again. I think you. Oh, I don't want to say that you clear with the Force and then charge, but I think it's what you got to do.
You can't. You have only 11 mana. Or you don't have 11 mana.
Oh, what the heck? I am stupid today.
If he had 13 mana, he can put him at 1.
Yeah.
Right? Or 2.
Well, in that case, you have to taunt and then hope this game draws. He's got one more turn, though. That's the good news.
He's got one more turn.
I think he had one more turn anyway. I think his opponent's actually only got 19. 4, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. His opponent had 21 points of damage, so he was actually one short damage lethal anyway. Wow.
That is really tough. You know, Savage. Yeah, exactly. Savage Roar is a kill anyways.
Savage Roar is still.
It's a kill either way.
Yeah, it's still a win here, and so
he needs to draw the Savjz Roar. That's what he needs. All right, Harvest Golem doesn't help RDU, and it doesn't make him feel any safer.
It's all going to come down to this draw. Is Savjz going to get what he needs, or is he going to lose the match 3-0 to RDU?
The big moment of truth.
What does he draw?
Oh, man, what a fake out.
I can't stand it! Swipe!
Oh, he gets it! Oh, he has
it!
The top big swipe and finishes off. Whoa!
I cannot believe it. That is unbelievable.
With his Miracle Rogue and see what's going to be happening. Let's go into game number 4 and see if Savjz can pull this back, or RDU kind of finish it here with the Miracle Rogue.
Ooh. This is going to be these hands make all the difference in the world. You know, now that he knows it's Token Druid, I don't think you keep the sap. But cards like Shiv go up a lot in value because your opponent has stuff like Argent Squires. So he needs to just be able to pick apart his opponent's board and keep sort of his draws going, so that way he doesn't fall behind to all the sticky minions that Savjz can put forward. So I like turn 1 Harvest Golem into the Spider here. I think this is his best chance to put together enough damage to finish off his opponent, I think.
Yeah, I think Savjz is destined to play these games shorthanded the entire time, just because how much pressure he's trying to put on his opponent.
Right.
And RDU got to sap anyways, despite him mulliganing away. But he does have some nice, good card parity. You know, Deadly Poison Shiv is one of the best ways to deal with Harvest Golem. It's just unfortunate that it got innervated out, so he's going to be taking 4, 6, maybe even 8 damage.
I don't mind
another Harvest Golem top deck as well.
Wow.
So curves out beautifully. And in a way, it's kind of like he already got the Wild Growth for the first half of the game because he's been able to curve out so nicely ahead of time.
I really don't mind actually using the sap on turn 1 because it's going to stem 4 damage. And it also prevents your opponent from curving out into like a board that you can't out pressure. So a lot of things. Wow, he picks up an Azure Drake too.
All right.
So he's even hedging his bets against Phantom Knives. I like this.
Yeah, so he's just putting on more pressure, and he's getting these really nice curves. Gadget Stand pickup from RDU, but he's ready to use his coin, and looks like he's gonna have to do something big here. Use his Deadly Poison, try to get rid of it, but still, he's just gonna be taking lots of incoming damage.
Does he clear the Harvest Golem with the 3/2 here, or does he clear the 3/1 or the 1/1? You think?
I think you take the guaranteed value, don't you? But then the hero power, assuming he doesn't have anything, can just take it out, and then he just puts on more pressure. But then I think it's too good to pass up to try to pick up a free kill here.
Because it forces your opponent to off their 4-drop too. So if he has something like Violet Teacher and he chooses the hero power, he can't do it anymore.
Oh man, Innervate once again. So if Savjz picks up anything, he pretty much can play, especially if he gets like Ancient of Lore off the top.
Yep.
So RDU, he's now finally. God,
what does RDU do now?
I thought he was on 5 mana. I thought he could play the preparations and Gadget Stand. Never mind, he's still struggling.
Is he going to sap something here? If he saps, he doesn't really have a good preparation target next turn.
Oh, he has Deadly Poison, I guess.
I like Dagger Up again. You got to get the Dagger ready for Gadget Stand Auctioneer, I think.
I think so too. You just want it as clean as possible.
Yep.
Savage Roar.
Wow. Okay. Savjz continues to put together a winning hand. And Wrath's not a bad pickup either.
No, it's not bad either.
Wow, and RDU's down to 13 life.
On turn 5, because he's been having to use help to trade. Let's see when he gets all this preparation.
Ooh, that's not going to help.
Yeah, he has to sap this Drake.
That Wrath is so important because the Innervate's so important because he gets to innervate out the Wrath.
You're right.
Under the Gadget Stand Auctioneer.
And he has a Savage Roar, so he has a swipe as well.
Swipe. You got to play Azure Drake.
Wait,
does he have lethal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got 10 points of damage if he chooses to use a swipe this turn. I think you go for Azure Drake into Wrath. That's what I think.
I'm just trying to calculate everything. Yeah, you're right. I was really close to lethal, but I mean, at this point, you still have it. Wow, he has the Charger with the Savage Roar as well. follow up these turns. He's got a lot of ways to just close out this game, and that's why Druid, they're so explosive in their nature, being able to...
Oh my gosh. I don't think RDU is going to be able to win this game. Because look at his hand. His hand's full of just like these sort of mediocre responsive spells. It's hard for him to clear this Azure Drake off the board. Like, even if he saps here, he's still finding himself in a position where he's short on life. So when he double heals, this is going to take him up to 15, and then he's still dead to basically the same range of cards that he was already dead to.
Really tough position for RDU. But I think that's what he's forced to do at this point. Unless he wants to go for a mixture of the two.
Oh, and that's going to do it.
Yeah, right there. Savjz going to pull back into the game in this series.
Ow.
He's got the exact damage to be able to finish this off right here. So now all of a sudden we're going to game number 5, Admirable.
I can't... You know, I thought it was going to go to 5. I didn't think it was going to go to 5 this way. Because one of the things that these decks are missing is they're missing stuff like Alexstrasza. So they have to actually just push through the full 30 points of damage, which isn't unreasonable when you have things like Argent Commanders.
Well, it depends. It depends. I think he still favors things like Alexstrasza as well. I mean, he has a very unique way of building this warrior, so I won't rule anything out of the possibility yet. But we're already starting with the mulligans. Savjz threw away 3 of his cards. I didn't get to see it, but he does have an Ardent Squire for a strong start to kind of annoy the warrior as much as possible. RDU picks up an Ardent Smith, which is going to be really nice against some of these low drops like the Haunted Creepers with the Ardent Squires.
Yep. Wrath's a pretty good response to something like Acolyte. And in this case, it's also going to pick off the Armor Smith. And Azure Drake, I want to touch on how important Azure Drake is in this Warrior matchup. Because one of the things you're trying to do is you're trying to fill the board every single turn and force your opponent to respond to it. So something like Azure Drake is a 4/4 body that also replaces itself. And that's going to help you consistently throughout the game just get threats down on the board that your opponent has to deal with. And you're hoping that the Warrior deck stumbles one turn and they don't have a removal spell, and that's where you find your turn to strike. And that's when you open up opportunities for things like Savage Roar. So this turn moving forward, I think, is really important. I would like to see just a 3/2 here, but I'm not going to rule it out of the possibility of him saving it either. He may just kill this Armor Smith, but I would like to see him use a 3/2 and then respond with the Wrath instead, because his turn 3 is really weak, and his turn 4 is likely going to be Coin Azure Drake, unless he picks up something else.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair assessment too, because when you get that momentum, if the warrior slips up once, you're hitting their armor, they can't shield slam. And at that point, it's just their removal options become what, like you have to have like a execute at that point,
yep.
or some way to kind of do damage with.
The other thing too here,
Arcanite Reapers.
If you're gonna Wrath, I like using the Ardent Squire to pick off this Armor Smith to prevent something like this from happening, because now he gets to draw a card off the slam. So I think
that's fair.
I think a little bit greedy for the 1 damage, because now it's giving your opponent a potential card. Like, you sacrifice 1 damage to cut off your opponent's potential card. Wow. And Violet Teacher. I imagine
with
you
the
Violet Teacher here. Yeah, I think you Violet Teacher here for sure.
Right, he just used a slam, so it's unlikely that he has the slam execute combo.
Yep. Your opponent's got to either Whirlwind execute, or they have to have shield block, shield slam. He's going to save the coin, though. What this tells me is instead he's looking for, on turn 5, he wants to play the Violet Teacher coin into Pyro of the Wild.
But then what does he do on turn 4, then?
I think he's just going to end up passing.
Wow. That's gonna be that's a really tough position, because again, you're missing these really crucial turns. You want to have like things like Harvest Golem to annoy the warriors as much as possible. That's exactly what the Haunted Creepers are for too. It's not pretty either way.
I feel like if you're gonna do this, that you should have just coined it out. I don't really understand that.
But then it messes up your curve. No, you're right, because then you could just Hero Power and the Power of the Wild the following turn.
Wow, and really strong series of draws from RDU here.
Wow.
Not only does he pick Shield Slam, but he picked up Acolyte to go along with that Whirlwind, so he doesn't lose any value on that.
And there's no way for the Druid to deal with it directly as well. He has to play the Azure Drake in response, which gives him another ability to Whirlwind and use his weapon to kill off this Azure Drake. And all of a sudden, you know, RDU's...
Wow, he's got his Azure Drake of his own. Oh. Now he has the option, if he wants to yeah, so he's going to go with this option.
I think you want to draw the card with the Acolyte and cycle it out. Plus, you had the Azure Drake to draw as well. Just keep it up, and this is the hardest part for Warrior to kind of survive from Druid, and he's been able to set the pace of the board.
This is a much different Warrior deck than I anticipated him playing. The one he played in Shenzhen was like a much more mid-range deck, that was focused around stuff like Corcoran Elite and Argent Commander
Pressure.
to get damage in. Right. And instead now he's fallen into this very traditional style control deck. This is a nice curveball I think he's thrown.
It's good. I mean, he does this too, right? At DreamHack, he played the Freeze Mage, and then in Deck Wars, a couple weeks later, he plays an Aggro Mage. And he shows his versatility in being able to understand these decks, what's required for making them really effective. And that's one of RDU's strengths, because again, he plays so much Hearthstone. It's at this stage, he's pretty much good with almost everything.
Wow, this is a tough spot for Savjz to climb out of.
He just used a swipe as well, so I think he's a little bit more willing to kind of commit to this and force his opponent to kind of respond.
I like
force of nature.
Something that's interesting is I like him playing the BGH here. Because his opponent's playing Token Druid, it's very unlikely he's going to have something like Ragnaros. So there's not really a real reason to save this card. This is BGH is a card that's obviously targeted at like Warrior Mirrors and against Handlock. And sometimes it does stuff against Druid, but against this particular Druid, like it's so hard to imagine Handlock something like Ragnaros being in this deck because it's so committed to the early game that Ragnaros will just muck up your draws. Sequencing is good here too. He doesn't give his opponent extra armor, as I've done probably 50,000 times before.
Yeah, exactly. Don't kill the Armor Smith first if you plan on killing it at all.
Yep. He's not out of this yet,
objective.
Though. He's got the combo in his hand, so it's 14 points of damage. He's got coin to go along with it in the Power of the Wild, so it's potential 17 points of damage. Oh, and a shield block.
That's going to be really rough for anything like a Ancient of Lore comes out soon.
He's putting
even if he gets it to draw,
cards.
he's just going to get Shield Slam, and he can kind of commit something on the board and control it as well.
Yep.
Very difficult for Savjz to come back from this position, I think.
What do you think about taking out the 1/1 there instead of the shield?
I don't think the shield can get too much other than just Power of the Wilds, right? And at that point, are you really afraid that 2 damage to trade something favorably?
I don't think so.
So I think in that response, it's okay. It's perfectly fine to do that. As Savjz has to play this Black Knight, I mean, Warrior really doesn't play anything taunt. The only exception might be like a Senjin or the occasional like Defender of Argus, maybe.
Yeah.
Not really.
Wow. Look at, and just RDU has all the answers. And look at this Ragnaros is even going to come down this turn. All right, it's not going to come down this turn. He's going to slam.
He's going to play more control.
I'm sort of surprised by that because he's already seen a big. No, he's the one who played the big game hunter. My bad. Yeah, this is very standard. And then the Acolyte of Pain is very much so challenging that 1/1. You really don't want to just give him another card. Savjz is going to need something powerful here, and I don't think that's it. This is really bad news if you're in this spot. Your opponent's at 33 health.
And this is kind of the struggles with Token Druid. A lot of people kind of complain about combos and the potency of Druid, but this is also the opposite side where a lot of stuff that you draw can be dead. Versus when you play like a traditional fast mid-range Druid, a lot of stuff that you pick up is really strong. Like whatever you usually pick up at this stage of the game, whether it's Druid the Claws, your Cairn, your Rags, your Ancients of whatever. At this stage, sometimes you just pick up dead stuff like your Harvest Golems, your Argent Squires, your Power of the Wilds when you have nothing on board. It feels pretty useless at times. And this is where Token Druid often kind of falls. So for anybody kind of like wondering what they're struggling against, this is sometimes what happens when you play this kind of deck.
Yep.
So many situational cards to kind of make everything really great, but falling short of being able to do
Do you just make 3 2s here and hope that for the best?
I don't think you want to give up another like Force of Nature for a combo, right?
Sure.
Because that'd be your way to win. So if that's it doesn't feel good at all. You could use it, Power of the Wild, and then be able to clear everything, or even just use Savage Roar, I guess. At this stage, neither of them are really preferable.
He really wants to get that Acolyte off the board, and he really wants to, like... And I guess he gets a 1/1 out of this deal, too. This isn't the worst, actually. I kind of like this. Wow, there's still an Argent Commander in that deck. Look at that. Argent Commander is a really strong... It's a really strong response to Azure Drake. Because it's effectively...
Well, it is the response to Azure.
Right, it's like you draw a card, and the card you draw is a 4/2 onto the board.
Ooh. Okay, well, Savjz has to deal with a Garash, or Grommash, rather. It's 10-8. He needs to top deck a BGH or something to stay in this game.
Yeah, he can wait no longer. Oh, an Iterate's gotta be the worst draw in his deck. This might be the concession.
Ooh, man. That is rough.
Your opponent's at 26 and they're getting 2 HP a turn. I don't think you can climb out of this. You needed an
A lot of people ask, how is Innervate balanced? Well, here's your answer. I mean, right? Like, what else can you do?
You make 3 2s. Good luck and God bless.
He's going to need a lot more than.
He needs his
holy
opponent to
intervention
attack
to
these
save this game.
3-2s, I think.
He needs more than divine intervention to save him from this.
All right, if you're RDU here, you slam brawl, roll the dice. You got to kill these 3-2s, right? Right?
Yeah, that's clearly the biggest objective right now on his plate for sure.
All right, so instead he's just going to clear him out with reasonable answers.
I think so. I think at this point, RDU, he's already kind of been on the brink of defeat, or the verge of victory, and then kind of got saved from the brink of defeat. I think he really wants to just close this game because he's also one of those players who does struggle with stuff emotionally because he's been up and down. So he wants to end this game as soon as possible.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Savjz, he's going to have to try to mitigate damage by killing off again this Argent commander, but leaving up the Gromosh. So
that's actually lethal.
I think
too.
by all accounts, that's game because he has the Gorehowl.
Now, is it going to be game via the sweet answer? Oh my gosh! I guess this is a pretty sweet way to do it. And 20 to the dome, 2 Warrior Pyroblast. RDU is going to take this in a 5-game set where